Hi everyone, my name is Justin Roberts. I'm a senior product director here at GitKraken, and today I wanted to take a little bit of time to talk to you about Worktrees. You may not have heard of them, you may have used them before, but they're a really powerful tool in your Git toolkit that can help you work on multiple things at once without the kind of cumbersome branch switching that you might be used to today. So I'm going to explain to you what Worktrees are, give you a couple of examples, and see how you can use them both in the terminal and in some of our products here at GitKraken. So let's get started. So we're all familiar with branches. They help us explore new ideas. They help us work on bug fixes. They help us manage different versions of our code. But sometimes switching between branches is really cumbersome. It's a very single-threaded process. If you want to switch from one branch and you have some working changes on it to another one, you typically have to do some work to stash those changes or commit them before you're ready so that you can move on to something else. So what is another way we can do that? We can use work trees. First, let's take a look at what the single-threaded development process looks like with branches, and then we'll see how it can be improved with work trees. So typically, let's say you're on a branch, you're on main here, and you have some working directory changes. You're not ready to commit those, but you need to switch over to this feature branch because you have something else that you need to do over there. So in the typical workflow, you would just switch branches, right? You would check out the feature branch and you would stash those changes on main so that you could do that. So now you're on feature, you're making some more working directory changes, and let's say that a critical bug is found in production that you need to fix. Well, you need to create a new branch for that, but you're not quite ready to commit these changes on feature yet, so you've got to stash those. You stash those changes, and now you've kind of got these three different branches, all with varying levels of working directory changes that are stashed, that you have to know how to go back to, that you have to either pop or apply to get those changes back into the state so that you can keep working on them. It's a little bit cumbersome. It's very single-threaded, moving from one branch to another. It's a lot of stashing. That's pretty much what it comes down to, is you have to stash a lot to do this workflow, and you can even get yourself into some situations where maybe you have merge conflicts that you have to resolve if you're not quite paying attention. So the better way to do this, in my opinion, is to try using work trees. So the way that work trees work is they're essentially another directory within your repository. So in this same example, if I was on that main branch and I had some working directory changes, those are on the kind of main working tree. But if I needed to switch off to the feature branch, I could essentially create a new work tree that lets me switch over to that branch, have its own working directory so I can make changes on feature that are completely separate from the changes that I had on main. And if that critical error comes up again and I need a hotfix, I can open up another work tree with those changes. And it's very easy to switch back and forth between work trees so that you can work on changes in one, work on changes in another without having to commit them, without having to stash them, and really without losing those changes, because the last thing you want to do is switch branches and destroy the work that you had in an old one. And that is the benefit of using work trees. So let's see how that works in real life. I'm going to switch over to my terminal here. And you can see that I am in the GitLens repository. And if I do a git status, you can see that I do have some changes in this branch that I'm on main. But I have a new idea. There's something else that I want to work on, and I want to create a new branch to work on those. Now, I could stash these changes or I could commit them, but I'm not really ready to do that. I just had this wild idea and I want to work on something else. So what you can do is you can do git worktree add, and I'm going to call this new idea. And so what that's going to do is it's going to create a new directory within the same repository, that same GitLens repository that's called new idea. It's also creating a branch called new idea. Now you can see that I'm still inside my GitLens repository. And if we do git status again, you can see that those changes are still there. But I want to switch to that work tree. Now that work tree, because it's just a directory, I can cd into that. And now I am in new idea. And if I do a git status, you can see there's nothing there. So I have created a new branch on a separate working directory where I can do some work. I can explore this new idea. I can do whatever I want without getting in the way of the changes that I had on main. Now, working in the terminal, it's a little hard to follow this sometimes. It can be a little tricky to visualize where you're at. So I'm going to switch over into GitKraken Desktop just to kind of visualize what's going on here. So you'll see over in the work trees section, I have that main work tree that I was on with those changes, and I have new idea here. Now in GitKraken, I'm going to switch to the new idea work tree. And now you can see that I have a branch. It's pointed at the same place as main, but there are no working directory changes. I'm got a clean slate here. If I go back to main, those working directory changes that I have are still there. So I didn't destroy any of the state in main by creating this new work tree to work on a new idea. I kept all of my working directory changes, and it's really easy to switch back and forth and just change context without losing any of my place. Now let's say I have yet another new idea, and so I'm going to create a new work tree, but I'm going to do it inside of GitKraken Desktop this time. So I'm just going to click this, going to add a new work tree. I'm going to start this from main again, and I'm going to call this another idea. So I have yet another idea that I want to work on, so I'm going to create another work tree. Let's do that inside of GitKraken Desktop this time. If I come over here into the work tree section and I click on new work tree, I can start this from main, and I can say that this is another idea. And so now GitKraken is going to create that work tree. It's going to open it, and now I am on another idea. So I've got three work trees going on here. I have the main work tree that has those working directory changes that I started with. I had this new idea that I wanted to work on some other things on, and then I had yet another idea that I spun up a work tree for. So now I can make some changes there. So let's say that we're going to do that. I'm going to go open this repository in VS Code, and you're going to see that it has opened up a repo that looks like it's called another idea, but it's just the directory that's within the VS Code repository. And I can show that if I come over here into source control and I show you in GitLens the actual work tree section. Let's minimize these. And so you can see the same thing in GitLens here. I have that main work tree, I have the new idea work tree, and then I have another idea. So I have all of these three working directories that I can switch between. I can do the same thing here in GitLens and switch to new idea. So I can switch back to my main work tree. And you'll see that I have those working directory changes again. Those didn't get lost. They still exist. And I can always switch back to any of my other work trees. Let's open up another idea. That's going to open it back up again. And I can start coding, make changes on that one, commit them, push them, all independent of that main branch. So another example, let's say someone opens a pull request and they need your review really quickly. You don't want to block your team, and so you want to switch over and review their work. Now I'm going to put myself back on that main work tree so that I do have those working directory changes there. You can see that I have those files changed. And this time I'm going to go into GitKraken Desktop just to show you the Launchpad feature here. I'm going to switch over to Launchpad, which is a good place to go if you want to see which pull requests or issues are assigned to you. And I can see that this issue right here, search for GitLab PRs in Launchpad, was assigned to me. I should go review that. Now, if I want to review it, I can check it out in a new work tree. And instead of having to stash away the changes on main, I can check out in a new work tree. It will keep those changes alive and well in main, but create a new work tree for me to review these changes. So I'm going to come in here. I'm going to create this work tree. It is automatically going to name the branch based on that PR. And I'm going to open it. So now you can see that I'm on this work tree that's named after the PR that I'm on. And so I can come in here, I can review the code. I can go through my review. And when I'm done, I can submit that review to GitHub and then move on. I can close where I'm at, go back to my other work tree. And since I'm done reviewing this, I can remove that work tree. And now I'm back where I started. I haven't lost any of my work. Everything here is still on main. My working directory changes are undisturbed, but I was able to very quickly jump over and review that PR without messing anything up. If I would have needed to build that PR and run any code against it, I could have spun something up in my terminal to go build it, and it would have kept it completely separate from the work that I was doing here on main. So that's a really easy way to use Worktrees to quickly go over and unblock your team with code reviews. The last scenario I want to run through is that scenario of needing to do a hotfix. Let's say there's a critical issue that comes up in production and you need to open up a branch to push out a fix as quickly as possible. Well, you could hop into your terminal and you could switch over to a new branch. You could do a Git Worktree add and give it a name, but you might need to go get the name of whatever that issue is. Maybe your team likes to name your issues the name of, or name your branches to follow a specific naming pattern, and maybe you don't know what that is. An easier way to do that would be to go into something like GitLens. And in the home view of GitLens, we have this feature for start work on an issue. And it's a shortcut to immediately starting a branch or a work tree on a new issue. So I'm going to use that right now to find that bug. So I'm going to search for it. And here it is right at the top. I need to fix an incorrect promo code that went out. So I'm going to click that issue. I'm going to start this on main. I'm going to base it on that branch. And it's automatically going to name the branch the name of the issue. And I'm actually going to create this in a new work tree. So now I have this work tree for this hotfix that I need to do some work on. And if I go back to GitLens, I can see that main is still there. That work tree is still there with those working directory changes, so nothing happened to it. It's ready for me to go back to when I need to. I can come in here into this work tree that I created for this hotfix, write the code, push that code up to production, get the thing resolved, and when I'm ready to switch back, in this recent section, I can very quickly see that there's a work tree on main. I can click it, and now I'm right back into main with those working directory changes intact. Nothing got disturbed. I've pushed that bug fix out to production as quick as I could, and I came very quickly back to where I was without having to stash or commit anything. So those were just a couple of examples of how you can use Git Worktrees in your daily workflow. We've looked at how you can use it to improve parallel development, so you can work on two branches at the same time without worrying about losing your changes. We've looked at how you can use Git Worktrees to improve code review and unblock your team by very quickly checking out a branch on another work tree, getting that reviewed, and then jumping back to where you left off. And they're also really powerful in situations where you might need to do a critical fix as quickly as possible. You don't want to think about stashing or committing your current work. You just want to jump over to another thread and get that fix out to production. Git Worktrees are really powerful. They enable you to context switch much easier than branches and really confidently resume where you left off before you went onto that work tree. I encourage you to try Git Worktrees on your own. Start simple. Create a work tree just for a new idea like I showed you. See what it feels like to have two sets of working directory changes live at the same time and quickly switch back and forth between those work trees and kind of operate in that multi-threaded environment instead of just a single-threaded branching environment. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of GitCon.